And England has shown it during the summer, I think a year or two, where they were playing Test cricket, and on the same time they were playing white ball cricket. I think against Netherlands, and I think that's what is going to be happening down the line. So when I was involved with the Proteas as an assistant coach, I could see that. I could see what potentially could have happened down the line in world cricket. And we are finding closer, we're getting closer and closer to a point where we're gonna need to have our red ball and white ball
simultaneously
playing, playing concurrently, and that's gonna become a reality.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the All Rounders SA podcast. We have a special guest today here at HBC.
Center of Excellence.
Oh, Center of Excellence, not HBC.
It's not just high performance.
It's not just
high performance.
Center of Excellence.
Good things must happen.
Good things must happen here at the Center of Excellence, Cricket South Africa. We're in Pretoria, and we've got a very special guest. We've been hunting the man for months.
A year.
A year. But he's finally here. They used to call him the Soweto Jacques Callison during his playing days. Born in Soweto, he's the director of cricket for South Africa, Mr. Thabiso Enoch Nkwe. You like that intro, ne?
I like it.
You like that intro?
Yeah, no one has actually introduced me in that manner, so very, very,
You've never heard Soweto Jacques Callison before?
It's Soweto.
You're taking me back to my playing days.
Soweto is a Brian Lara.
Soweto Lara. And Bobabile happened to be coaches as well.
Enoch, thanks for your time. Obviously, we know that you're a very busy man. There's a lot on your plate almost every day, every week, every month, every year. And especially now with the summer of cricket here in South Africa approaching thick and fast. We wanted to have a small catch-up about some of the progress that you've made as director of cricket, but also just some of the personal stuff. I mentioned the fact that you're born in Soweto, played cricket, first-class cricket for Gauteng and the Lions. How was it growing up playing cricket in Gauteng and obviously that injury that forced you to retire prematurely?
Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for the opportunity to be part of the show. I don't know about Nons. I don't know about this year thing. It's been just a couple of months.
Just a couple of months.
It's unfortunate that we kept on missing each other, but finally we all here together and we can chat about the game of cricket.
I love how he's avoided talking about himself.
Exactly.
Growing up in Soweto.
Yeah, he's gotten this way.
And there's a couple of Proteas that are coming from a particular school in Johannesburg. Yes. And he also went through that route. Yeah. We just wanna. Some people might not know your background.
Yeah. Look. It all started basically in Soweto. Yeah. Back in obviously the KFC mini cricket program. Yeah. I was part of it, and how it all happened there. Wow, what a story! Because I had no idea that obviously I would play a sport called cricket. Yeah. I was so invested into football or soccer. Yeah. And it just happened that I was waiting for my friend. Yeah. After school, in primary school, and he was taking so long, and then I saw him in the, in the back of the school there, the sports grounds, and I just saw like a small group of kids, and with one of the coaches just hitting, half a circle. It all happened in Soweto. Let me put it that way. In an area called Dobsonville.
Dobsy.
And to be honest, I never ever thought I would play a sport called, cricket. Yeah. Because I was so, in my family, it's always been about soccer and obviously that was basically my journey. I didn't even think of making it professionally. It was just something that I would just do because almost everyone in my family, did something while they were at school.
Yeah.
And it just happened that one afternoon, while I was waiting for my friend, I saw a small group of kids playing something.
Yeah.
A coach hitting balls, half moon. And so I was like, you know what, while I'm killing some time, let me actually go join a group of, it looks quite exciting.
Yes.
Let me, and then find myself doing that catching and, playing this sport called cricket for the next basically 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so my friend anyway left.
Yeah.
He left me there. And I had to walk back home around 5 o'clock. But reflecting on that moment, let me call it a moment.
Yeah.
And look, and my family, I was just like, okay, what is this sport? What are you getting yourself into? You're wearing white socks and white shorts, and what's going on? Look, and then literally it happened so quickly because I came back that Saturday, and that Monday I went back to school and I was invited to hardball cricket.
Yeah.
And they said, why don't you go and try? And I went, and that's when I actually learned how to bowl properly with a straight arm. I learned a lot of basic drills from a batting point of view, and try and get my technique right. And that's things started to happen very, very quickly, and
Before you ask, what was the influence back then? Was it Kaizer Chiefs or Orlando Pirates? Growing up in Dobsonville, I mean, there has to be one of the big two. Can't be Morocco Swallows.
No,
it can never be Morocco Swallows.
It was Orlando Pirates.
It can't be Sundowns. No.
Yeah, it was Orlando Pirates. Orlando Pirates. Because my entire family basically supported, from my grandmother to my father, everybody supported Pirates. Yeah. And being part of family, and as you all know, you're kind of sort of forced to follow, in the footsteps of your elders, let me put it that way. Because before I went to Dobsonville, I was actually in Mokopane, in the Limpopo. Yes. So I spent about 3.5 years, under the guidance of my grandparents and that. So I had to follow Pirates and came back, obviously, this side to the big lights. And that's when I sort of learned how to take some decisions. And I always wanted to be different. Okay. You understand? I've always been that child that wanted to do things a little bit different. Yeah. And luckily, being away, obviously, from especially my grandfather, I started to do my own thing. Yeah. I don't think I would have actually got involved into cricket. Yeah.
If you were still
if I was still under the guidance of my grandfather, because for him it was all about university, a bit of football, while you're in high school, but they basically books and
I'm going to say coach for a while now,
Josie Stars Connect here.
But I'm actually surprised. I always thought it was Alka side. I'm shocked he's saying Dobsonville because I'm actually hearing this for the first time. But growing up, obviously, you've mentioned there's a farm boy in you. How's growing up in a farm? I mean, you didn't mention the Makopane side. Growing up in Limpopo, how was that experience?
Lovely. Yeah. Peaceful. Everywhere we went, we basically walked or got on a bike. So relaxing, constantly connecting with nature. Like I said, it was so peaceful and didn't have so much to worry about. We're all like a community, a small village, and you learn a lot, not only from your own family, but from different families, etc. So you learn so much about the spirit of Ubuntu, the human values, and that's something that I'll always be grateful for because for me that was a foundation. I think it happened for a reason. Someone knew my journey, my path, to this point, what was going to happen, and I needed to have that sort of a foundation, that base. And because moving away from that, coming to Joburg, and all of a sudden you're faced with, large challenges that I believe without that base, I'm not sure if I would have gone through some of the challenges that I actually went through as a young kid. Lost my father at the age of 7, literally after moving from Mokopane to Joburg. That happened. And then all of a sudden, at the age of 7, you're dealing with the loss and confused and not knowing, how are you going to move forward? So, and all of, it was just me and my brother and my mom. Now, my mom had to basically raise us. And, look, it wasn't an easy journey, but I really believe that foundation actually, did strengthen my character and helped me through all these challenges as a young kid, and also going from moving schools, man. It's never an easy thing. Moving from Kopani to Joburg is completely different. And then having, and then playing cricket and then getting a bursary, going from a township school to St Stithians College. It's a big difference. And prior to that, he gets selected as a 11-year-old, 12-year-old to travel to England with Rodibor Cricket Club. Your first time going overseas as an all-rounder, great expectations. And so it was, in a short period of time, there were so many challenges that I needed to tackle. And it's not to say that I had a lot of support from my family, because they were still trying to figure out, what are you actually doing with this game of cricket?
Not familiar with it.
We're not familiar with it. And then the community as well, it's like there was so much pressure for me to drop the game and actually really focus on soccer. So I needed almost to do this journey, walk this journey on my own with no support. The only support I actually got was teachers at school, because they understood and they knew a lot more about the game and what the game can actually do for an individual. So coming back to your question, that's my experience basically, with the farm life, and I actually enjoyed it. And time to time, I actually do reflect on those 3.5 years. When I'm going through a lot of tough times, I actually go back to that and just think of what I had to go through, during that time and post that time. And try and obviously get myself back on track.
Just to follow up then, I mean, you actually touch on a few things where now you're saying, like, cricket kind of, when you got the bug or the taste of it, it kind of accelerated quickly for you. At what point now does it become, actually, you know what, I want to take cricket seriously? I mean, because you grew up probably in a period where Morocco Swallows, Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates,
very strong,
in Soweto, Dobsonville, very strong. And to be going against the grain and finding passion in a completely, I'm going to call it a white sport, because I mean that would have been how it's seen or perceived in a township at that time.
Good question. I suppose I mentioned earlier that I've always sort of been that person that goes against the grain. And it needed to obviously start at home, where everyone was a Pirates supporter, and it got to a moment, I remember in 1994, where I decided, you know what, I'm going to go a completely different direction. And I remember what actually influenced that was watching, I can't remember, Sundowns against someone. And Iwi Kambule scoring this bicycle kick goal. And from that moment, I decided, you know what, I like what I saw there. It's so different. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually support this team, And my journey is basically, it's been like that. And even when I came across peer pressure, which I did, I was confronted with, I remember at one moment when I was actually excelling in cricket as an 11-year-old. And I left cricket for about a couple of weeks because of peer pressure. I went to football, and it came a point when where I used to practice. We had a game.
Oh, really?
The school is called Buikanyo Primary School. That's where we used to practice. And then they had a soccer field.
Next
to the net. And I knew it. That today is the day. So I was actually hoping that they'll practice a bit later in the day.
Yeah.
But it just happened because it was school holidays, so the practice was a lot earlier. And the coach, Makas Mukhari, tried. I mean, he called, my mom. He tried everything to try and reach out to me and get me back into cricket. And I literally, because of peer pressure, I actually, followed my mates. And I went to and played. We had a game on that day. And I remember I was playing on the on the left wing. I kept on feeling this pressure, and then I saw my teammates, my cricket teammates. They looked at me like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, so I tried to focus in the game, and I just couldn't focus, And they're like, "How are we gonna go tell the coach that we saw you're playing this and this?" I had to make a decision right there. That is this what I want, or is this what other people want? What do I actually want? And it went back to being a different person, going on going against the grain. That's actually what I went back to, because that was part of my base in a way. And I went back to that, and I had to make a decision and said, you know what, cricket, nobody plays cricket. I'm comfortable with the decision that I'm about to make on carrying on with the game of cricket because it's different. And it looks like there's better opportunities there, to try and make it. Whether provincial cricket or... I didn't know how far it would take me. But I just saw it as something different that offers more opportunities than football or soccer, where there's a lot more competition. And even when I made that decision and I told my mom back then, she couldn't understand it. And my brother couldn't understand it. It's like, what are you doing?
Why?
Everybody else is playing soccer and all that. Why are you going this way? This is a difficult sport. And my mom, one thing my mom hated was those white shorts.
Yes, I knew the whites.
And having to rub that red ball.
Why is it always
red? Why is it dirty? Why are you doing the whole day?
And then you take a dive on the field, and then it's like, and there's always questions. So after a game, I have to go and explain, and then my mom used to hate it because she used to do the laundry for us. So and look, I suppose it's been part of my character. Something that I built, and it helped me at times in different difficult situations. And that's what that's how I actually dealt with that whole situation of the community, basically favoring the game of football versus cricket. Because in the street that I lived in, they hated cricket.
Just football.
Really?
They hated cricket. Why? Because I introduced cricket in that, there were a couple of kids all of a sudden started to play cricket, and we used to break a lot of windows. So I used to get a crate and a plank, and then get a lot of kids to bowl to me, and then I used to smash it. Sometimes we use a hard ball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then boom, and then hit it over the fence, breaks a window. I became a headache.
It's actually funny how your early development of your strengths in cricket. So it depends on, like, there was a field, like at home, there was a straight road. So you had to hit straight. And if you hit to the side, you're out. And then if you go to another street where there's a field on the next side, and then everything has to go. It's amazing how your early development, your early shots kind of developed without you actually realizing. In terms of now, I mean, as a township boy, probably the easiest thing to do is to become a bowler. The early decision of being an all-rounder, was that yours, or was that some batting, or which came first to you, bowling or batting?
Naturally batting.
Okay.
And I was fortunate that I had a coach like Makas Mukharu who very passionate about the game, very passionate about upskilling young kids. He was very well invested. And I suppose those concrete nets. We didn't have, the green mat or anything, or turf. It was just a concrete slab, basically concrete slab. And the ball actually came on nicely. Just skidded through. So after all the technical work, all the drills and that, it became a lot easier. You just pick up the length, you go back, you defend, or you play back foot drive, or you go front foot defense, or straight drive, like Ron said. Even outside of that sort of formal practice,
Yes.
you go back to your neighborhood and
Street cricket.
Cricket. You're forced to actually hit straight. You know, you hit on the side, you're either gonna get into trouble.
Six and out.
Six and out. You're breaking windows.
Yeah.
You know, or the ball gets confiscated. So there's a whole lot of issues. So you needed to learn to actually hit it on the ground and also over the top. So we were quite lucky that at our school, you know, the concrete slab actually helped a lot from a batting development point of view. And I actually enjoyed it. And I mean, my secondary skill obviously was bowling. And it helped that I batted in the top 3 and I opened the bowling.
Okay. See, I told you, Soweto
So I actually started to enjoy that level of responsibility in a team where they looked at me to, you know, strike early and also to score runs. And and I remember my first 100, you know, at the age of, I was 11. Played in Rivoli on the green mat and very bouncy. And I needed to figure out a way of, you know, negotiate
the bounce,
high balls but it was just one of those Saturdays where everything just clicked and never looked back from there. I just fell in love with the batting. The bowling, obviously, it was enjoyable because I could also run in, bowl in swingers, but also intimidate and bowl some bumpers because it was a lot easier on that green mat.
You mentioned the fact that you had a scholarship to St Stithians College. Coming from a township, you also mentioned the difficulties of that transition to coming from a township school to going to now a multiracial school. It's in the suburbs, and it's a bit difficult to try and come from a township to go there. What psychosocial support did you get to be able to make that transition? Because a lot of kids, even today, they still get bursaries. People only look at the talent, but they don't look at the psychosocial support, making sure that, you know, the kids are transitioning well from whatever school they come from to a new environment, whether that is friends, the language barrier, education. There's a lot of other things that go on, not just the talent that they brought there for.
Sure. To be honest, I don't know how I did it. I'll be deadly honest. Look, I suppose maybe it's my character. The experiences between the age of 7 and 11. What I had to go through, the loss in the family. And having to try, as a family, having to sort of find the way forward. You know, a bit of character from my mum, you know, because it was a very tough 4 years. We lost a lot as a family. You know, we used to have businesses, we lost all of that. And when the opportunity came, I didn't even think twice about it. Actually, MTS Patel was the general cricket manager at Gauteng Cricket.
Oh, really?
Heading up there, obviously, let's call it the development side of things. We had David Bacher there. You know, I suppose from a cricketing point of view, I had good support structure and a lot of guidance because even when I got that bursary to Saints, I remember it was after the Independent Schools Festival, which normally takes place in Feb. So post that, because I did well in that Independent Schools Festival, under 13. So Saints actually did target me. And obviously they had an engagement with Gauteng Cricket then. And they realized that, you know, I'm moving from a township to now a private school. They needed to bridge the gap. And what needed, you know, what they looked at interventions and all of that. And so I went in the same year. That's when I actually went on my first overseas tour. As a 12-year-old. And after that, they advised me to go to a school called Sparrow in Melville. Where it was almost like a bridging gap kind of thing. To prepare me better for private school.
Okay.
And I actually went there for a couple of months. I invested all my time and effort into my academics, and it came out well.
Yeah.
It actually, I really gave it everything.
Yeah.
So my cricket, I gave it all the time.
Yeah.
I remember I used to get home. I used to get home around 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Coming from practice at Wanderers.
Yeah.
And then, get home, obviously wash, try and eat whatever I can eat, and then sleep about 3-4 hours, and then wake up 3 a.m. and actually do my homework and my academics and stuff. And then I try and be ready, obviously, for the next day. So I invested a lot of time for a good 4 or 5 months period, because I knew the bigger picture, I understood the bigger picture, and I still had counting under 13 that I still wanted to make. So there were trials and all of that. But as someone that has been identified, I just wanted to make sure that I don't let anybody down. So I put in all my time and investment into my studies and cricket, and that actually helped. That prepared me better for St Stithians College. I must say, the first year though, that was tough.
It's only the first year.
That was tough because to learn the private school system, the
IEB,
and you're coming from, there's a language barrier. Big time. You need to learn the system. You can't drop your cricketing standards. Fortunate enough, I was in a boarding house, and I'm sure you would. You went through a similar experience. So there were so many challenges, but one thing that I knew I can actually thrive in was actually cricket. So there I didn't drop the ball at all. I kept on...
Literally.
Literally.
It's your saving grace.
It was my saving grace, and I think it gave me a lot of confidence, because I can only imagine if I didn't excel in cricket.
If you're not so good, now it's like, why is this guy here?
Exactly. It's just, how it is. So you start to walk around with, big shoulders, because everybody taps you on your shoulder. Like, well done on the weekend. So it gives you general confidence in the environment. Knowing that academically there's a lot of work that needed to be done. But one thing that Gauteng Cricket did well then in the same year was to partner us with mentors. And my mentor was Grant Elliott.
Oh, okay.
So we were in the same school. So he was in matric, and I got to spend quite a lot of time with him. A lot had to do with obviously helping me academically with especially the system at Saints, but also the life skills, and spent quite a bit of time with him. But at the same time I got to learn so much about the system in the first year, and my main thing was just pass. Get through the first year. You'll work it out. Going into the second year, third year, fourth year, it becomes a lot easier. You start to fit into the environment, the culture, and all of that. Which actually, that's how it all happened. And so my main thing was just getting through the first year of high school, and then after that, then I just knew it that now I'm gonna actually do it. I can do this, and I will do it.
Talk about the pressure then from being the first person, I assume, from your family to get that kind of opportunity to go to a private school. Did you feel any kind of pressure back home? Was there bigger expectation now that you've moved from Dobsonville to go to a boarding house at St Stithians College, coming back on half terms, end of terms? How did people perceive Tabiso Enoch Nkwe now? Your perception must have changed at Dobsonville now.
Big time, man. People look at you different.
School uniform.
The way you dressed up, and like some people were confused. Like, okay, well, one moment you're catching a taxi going to Dobsonville, and one moment now we don't see you for like a period of 3 months. And then there you are, so now look, it had but for me it didn't really bother me. My main thing, I had a very clear goal, and I really stayed focused on making it in cricket, and making sure that I pass, and I can qualify obviously for university and all of that. So for me, I try to make my life a lot more simple.
Yeah.
And I suppose cricket also helped in a way, how to manage your outside world, your neighbors, the people in the same street, but also having to try and, maintain those friendships that I started, as an 11-year-old, going back to Dobsonville. And then all of a sudden I found myself having to join Soweto Cricket Club.
Yes.
So those small little transitions and different environments, I needed to navigate and at times, strengthen, certain relationships. It was really, really, really key. And my family started to understand the bigger picture as well. Because we had opportunities time to time to invite them to cricket functions.
Yes.
And the likes of MTS Patel, and they'll engage with my mom, try and make her understand what
the
this whole
picture
thing
is.
it actually means, which became a lot clearer, and with all the support, especially from cricket, I think it made my journey, my family a lot easier as well. Yeah. So look, and pressure, it became a thing of, everyday life, basically, because you go to the boarding house, there's great expectations, there's a certain way of living, of behavior, and the culture in the boarding house, the culture at school, the culture on the cricket, the culture at the cricket club, the culture at Gauteng cricket. So you needed to sort of try to figure out where you are and adjust continuously. But those are some of the things as a youngster, you sort of learn, and then you find your feet, and then you say, you know what, as long as you don't compromise your values and who you are, and I think you'll find the way of navigating yourself around all those different environments. So look, there's always eyes on me every time I come back, whether it's half term or end of term. And having to carry this massive cricket bag. And sometimes, the taxi drivers used to give me a hard time.
They're going to charge you for that.
Charge me.
Where are you going to put this thing?
Exactly.
Like a TV.
There's this youngster carrying a massive bag, and then you're carrying a school bag, and it's just, I suppose it was just one of those things, part of life. And I had to take it all in, and live with it.
It's amazing because I resonated with everything that you said, because even today I'll never forget like walking down at Bishop's. Because I couldn't speak a word of English, but I was asked for an interview. I don't know what I said, but 6 years later, like it's an unbelievable experience. But like when it comes to, had you experienced a private school before that? For me, like for example, Sachs was a school that I went to because a township side was invited to come in. So I only had one dream when I was young. I was like, I want to go to Sachs because I was like the school that I'd been to, and I was, this is amazing. So before Saints, now like that first day, like what type of feeling are you getting to like, whoa? Because from Pumetemba in primary school, Kwalanga, to now Bishops, that was
completely
different worlds. So how was that first day where now Saints is massive.
It's a campus.
It's a city in its own.
It's a campus,
so
not just a ground.
What are the feelings? Do you want to go home with mom and dad or mom?
Nah, it was scary. You know what? Luckily, during that Independent Schools Festival, we stayed at one of the boarding houses. And they took us around the school. Obviously we had the what do you call it, the function down at the school and that. So it kind of sort of gave me a bit of picture of what it could actually look like. And one thing I was excited about, obviously, was because I've been to that boarding house, so it came across a bit familiar. But at the same time, it was coming to a realization that you're stepping out of your comfort zone. You're stepping into the unknown, and you don't know
how this is
gonna go. And then we had just before the school actually reopened, we had a camp.
Yeah.
A grade 8 camp in Magaliesberg, and like you say, you rock up there, you can't even speak a word of English, and you're like, oh my goodness, how are you gonna survive this? Yeah. And all you hear from some of your classmates, or let me say from a boarding house that you've met, you just hear the twang. Wow, this is gonna be a long 7 days. This is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. And look, I don't know how I got through that. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how I got through the camp. But I went through it and needed to find my feet very, very quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
And luckily I had a friend, my best friend, Hima Parashotam.
Yeah.
We actually leaned on each other during the time, because as much as he's Indian and he spoke English and all that, but the reality is that this is a completely different environment
for the both
different
of
culture
you.
for both of us.
Yeah.
And luckily we played together under 13, for a team called Super Squad. It was then called a development team, and he captained that team, and so we knew each other. Then, and coming into this environment at Saints, we basically had each other, We could just, but he then played in the B team, I played in the A team for a period, up until, he started getting opportunities in the A team, which was a bit awkward and difficult for me during that time, because there's a person, there's my friend, but he was my captain. Played together for more than a year. And now we're in this environment, and
two different teams.
Two different teams, and it was tough. But in the boarding house, his parents as well played a key role in making sure that they gave that level of support. So we had each other's back, and whether we're going through tough times or not, so that also helped, on that journey.
Let's fast forward now. First class cricket for the Lions Gauteng. Over 40 games, I assume. Yeah. How was that experience for you growing up, then playing cricket provincially? Like you said prior to this, is that you never really actually knew how far this would take you. But now it's getting serious. You're playing first class cricket. There's expectations now of possibly looking at playing for South Africa. The dreams get bigger. How was that process for you, playing first class cricket, and then finally having to deal with it all ending in a way that you probably never imagined?
Look, it was a tough experience, because it started off well in my first season, and then going into my second season I started picking up some injuries. So, and then there was also a change in the system where you went from provincial teams to franchise.
Early 2000s.
So my first two seasons, my first season went well. My second one was average, and I felt like I missed out in the second season to really strengthen my case after the first season, to be ready for franchise cricket. But thanks. I mean, even today, I still thank the likes of Shukri Kondor as actually my coach then. And also Alan Curry, and as a CEO, and obviously the Lions board, for backing me. Because I could have easily, after my second season, they could have gone,
done.
No contract, because they offered me a 3-year contract, funny enough, and that's when I actually felt they're backing me. And I need to obviously put in the hard yards, understand exactly what I can get out of this, how I can actually play for South Africa. But yes, that was a big picture, but I needed to. We had actually a plan, because after signing a 3-year contract, we sat down and we defined my role, the plan over the next 3 years, and all of that, which for me became even more exciting because I bought into it. Yeah. So and the unfortunate part is that I kept on getting injured.
Yeah.
And it's almost like every time I started to do well,
something
goes.
Set you back.
And it's not like a 1 week or 2 week injury.
Yeah.
I'll be out for
soft tissue
6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And it bothered me a lot. So it started to play a lot to my mind.
Yeah.
And and I started to feel like, yes, I'm letting my teammates down.
Yeah.
I'm letting my family down.
Yeah.
I'm letting myself down. I'm
Yeah.
letting the entire system down because I've always sort of been that person where I wanted to add so much value and I wanted to do well for the team because that has been my role throughout my journey as an all-rounder. And I fielded in key positions as well. So I wanted to always find myself in places where I add a lot of value.
Yes.
And being, not being able to finish a season.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Yep.
It was tough. There was a point where I was like, no, I'm gonna quit. I think the game of cricket is not for me at professional level.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of psychological help as well.
Yeah.
From Lions cricket then. To try and get me through the hardship, and create a bigger purpose or a meaning, because it kept on breaking me all the time. It's like, how do I deal with the setbacks?
Yeah.
And it got to a point where, unfortunately, throughout those years, whether I'm performing or not performing, it got to a point where I had picked up a major injury, and I could see my dream of playing for South Africa disappearing,
vanquished,
just like that. And I needed to make a decision right there, and I knew it. And there's a lot of sportsmen, they know when you get injured, and it's whatever injury you get,
that's it.
That's it, or it's going to be for the next month or two, or you just know it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're just hoping that
it's not as bad.
It turns out different.
Yeah.
But when I got the wrist injury, I knew it because the way it happened, I've just performed.
Yeah.
I've got 148 not out in the final of a 3-day competition. It was a 4-day game at Wanderers.
Yeah.
And I got 148 not out. Betting at 3. And we got bowled out for like 250 or something. That we ended up winning that final.
Yeah.
And then a week later, that injury happened.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew that, okay, I think my journey comes to an end.
Yeah.
I needed to sort of make peace with it. Yeah. And that was quite a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
I was out for a year.
Sure.
Yeah. And no, it was tough. I'm not going to lie to you.
Sure.
After 2 surgeries and working with a specialist and working with physios, they give you all the support and everything, which I'll always be grateful for, but I'm battling, because I had a claw like this, literally. Couldn't even move my hand, my fingers.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, how am I going to actually make it back into professional cricket? I need to start thinking of my future. I think the game of cricket is done. So I started thinking of maybe I need to go into corporate.
Yep.
Or maybe open up my own little business, whatever it is. That's, because I'm one of those people that if I start coming across some challenges, already I start thinking of a solution.
Yeah.
And maybe the process I might not get right, but already I'm thinking of, okay, what it can actually, solution-based and what could actually look like.
Yeah.
So I got myself into that mode, and look, it was tough because for my mom, for my brother, for my family, it was like, gee, but now what are you going to do now? But already I was trying to work out a plan post this injury, and I tried to make a comeback. I remember David Nosworthy was my coach back then, coaching Lions. Enoch Nkwe was still the CEO.
Yeah.
and we try to nail down a plan, a comeback plan, and it just didn't work out. Because I remember coming back, and then I played my first preseason game after a year.
Yeah.
At Wanderers on a slope close to the change room.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were playing Titans in the preseason.
Yeah.
And it was a green top.
Yeah.
And Dave knows where they had this thing of he's gonna test our characters.
Yes.
And then I betted number 3.
Yeah.
Oh my word, it was tough. I mean,
who are you facing with it?
I'm facing Monemoko. Dale was playing.
Bashir Walters. He was quick.
He was quick. He was up the slope.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Sure Albio must have been there.
I can't remember. Yeah, but I just remember Morne.
Pierre Juppé?
No. That was I just remember Morne made it very, very tough with his height.
Welcome back.
And it's like he bought one half volley, and I drove him through the covers, and it's like Knox.
That's the last one.
The last one. And trust me, it became very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, when back over length balls, going past your rib cage, and some of them, I mean, cutting through between your back.
Leave on length, Wanderers. Leave on length.
Exactly. And one unfortunately got hold of me and hit me right where.
Exactly where.
Yeah. And my whole arm basically swelled up, and I couldn't hold the bat anymore. And I was out for another 3 months.
Oh man, that's 15 months.
That's now
gone.
That was actually a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah.
Because of a year out injuries.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like, nah, okay, that's it. Because there's no way that I can carry on like this, because psychologically it's damaging, and I can't be like finding myself in a position where every time I need to go out and perform, I'm worried about
this thing. Yeah.
So I sort of made peace, and at the end of the season, I actually when I had a meeting with Lawrence Matlan was actually the assistant coach then.
Yeah.
And I sat with Lawrence and Dave. We had a contract meeting. And we decided I'm not going to renew my contract. Yeah. And that actually was a bit of a relief, funny enough.
Yeah.
I wasn't even worried what's going to happen post that. And they try to obviously give me something small that, can retain me and keep me playing, and let's see, what happens over the next year. And I actually made it clear to them. I said, no, I think my journey is done. I need to look after me. Yeah. My well-being I'm putting my well-being first. Yeah. And that's what I'm prioritizing now. Yeah. And I'll think about if I want to get involved in coaching or some sort of, get involved in cricket in some sort of a capacity. Or if I just leave the game completely and then, go find myself something else. Something else. Yeah, and I actually went overseas, played a bit of club cricket, and trying to figure out, what do I actually want. I actually got a lot of offers, coaching offers, including Gauteng Cricket as well. And I came back and I signed with Gauteng Cricket. And since then, I never looked back.
Just a quick one, still on your playing career, because South Africa, when it comes to black African batters, we haven't produced a lot of them in Test cricket, if I might call it that. Actually, in all formats, but like obviously Temba, Kaya Zondo, Temile Qeshile has been the few. I mean, you would have been in the fringes of those type of conversations. I mean, I remember your 100. In the article back in the day, you had your dreads, and I mean, as a Capetonian, it's still vivid in my mind because I was like,
There's a guy
who is batting. I could look up to. He's just scored 100. I can't remember, was that the final 100 or what type of crime? Because there was a big article. I'm thinking, who is this guy? So is there part of you just like you could have been maybe the earlier parts of that journey of South African journey? I mean, there's not a lot of those opportunities that were guys we thought were on the way up. I mean, batting 3 for a big franchise like the Lions in those days must have been massive in terms of where you were in South African setup.
Yeah, look, it's it was the plan. I mean, looking at obviously the playing opportunities, betting positions that I betted, it was a plan for, because that's what I've always believed, that I'm a betting all-rounder. And even when I would engage with my coaches back then, some believe that I was a bowling all-rounder.
Yeah.
But I've always believed, because of from the age of 11, right through my primary and my high school, I've always been a betting all-rounder. And that was, for me, that was my base. So going into the professional space, at times it became confusing. Because you work with one coach,
sees you in a different light.
they're saying,
you're better.
we got to work towards the top 4 because you're a betting all-rounder. And then another coach comes and he goes, you're a bowling all-rounder. I love your bowling skill and that you can develop to become like a Sean Polo type of thing. Then for me I remember one season I was completely lost and I didn't even know. And it is one of probably the most frustrating part about, being a cricketer is when you're not sure, when you don't take ownership of your skill or your role, it becomes really, really frustrating because then there's too many voices around who you are and all of that. While you believe this is, but sometimes you almost need one or two, especially a head coach, to really believe in who you are and what you're about. So and that's when I started questioning myself a lot. It's like you start doubting if you can actually make it. Because I actually enjoyed 4-day cricket. And I enjoyed betting long periods of time. Bat to ball, fielding in the slips. I actually loved it, because I was always in a game. And and getting to a point where you kind of sort of lose your own identity, your cricketing identity. It became very much frustrating, and it wasn't. It was one season, but then the next season you kind of sort of start doubting. You're like, yes, can it really happen? And then you're dealing with injuries at the same time. It was a bit tough at times, but look, I mean looking back, and even when I transitioned, my first year transitioning into as coaching. A young coach to coach. Yes, that I was struggling to deal with that transition of letting go of playing completely, because I started. Funny enough, I started playing playing my best cricket. Whether it's club cricket or overseas. Then you're like, cheapers, did I throw in?
Maybe.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, maybe if I stay on another year or two, but again,
that love is coming back.
And looking back, maybe, to be honest, if I had to deal with less injuries or hardly any injuries, I think the journey would have been completely different. And I think I would have given myself a better chance of succeeding with the bat and the ball, because I did look up to someone like Jack Callis from an all-rounder point of view, because I just enjoyed what he did, what he offered to the team, all-rounder, from a bat, ball, catching, So I was like, okay, I love this. So let's just let me work towards that. And even in my first year, I mean, I remember someone like Clive Exton, who was our captain. He backed me to be in the slip cordon, which a 19-year-old Eckers. I mean, you don't find that. Where you look at your team. I mean, there's Derek Cullinan, there's Aram Bacha, there's Clive Exton, there's
played with DJ.
I mean, you got some big names in there, and they're going, you got good hands going to the slip cordon.
1, 2, or 3, Kali.
I'll be either 1 or 3. Daryl.
2.
That was,
the most hardest position to catch a ball.
Look, and at times obviously he'll be at 1.
That's the easiest.
And then
easy.
And then when he became the franchise, I mean, HDI came in, he told me straight, number 2 is easy. Nobody else feels number 2. So I needed to sort of work it out and find either myself at 1 or 3 or gully. It was a new challenge, and I embraced it, and I enjoyed it. So, yeah.
Do you know what's funny about that? Do you know the only guy who never moves in the slip cordon? Riza Hendricks. Everyone else moves around him, but Riza, and by the end of play, he's got the cleanest whites. He's got the cleanest. And what's funny about Coach, when I started playing under him, I'm going to reveal some secrets.
Please.
We weren't the bowlers, no? We weren't allowed to be in the slips. But he was enjoying the privileges back in the day. The first rule he said, I don't want you guys, I don't want my bowlers being breaking figures. Exactly that. You guys must feel there until there was a point where we were dropping catches. And we're like, Coach, as bowlers, can we just, this is the last throw of the dice. Can you just put us in? And then when he started going in, the coach, the catches, and then he changed his tune. I want to talk quickly about your coaching career. I know how much you loved that phase of your coaching career, and obviously strikers. That was your earlier parts, success. And then obviously transitioning to probably your ultimate dream as a Gauteng, Johannesburg raised, coaching the Lions, what it meant for you to, yes, you've coached both teams, but obviously the pinnacle of provincial was the Lions. Coaching the Lions, your home side, must have been quite the full circle for you.
No, it was. Look, from the moment I transitioned into coaching, I just remember there's a guy in New Zealand, Gary McDonald. I coached with him in the Netherlands. We used to have a lot of cricketing conversations. He saw me play, and he started to see my coaching and all of that. And he asked me a question, and he's like, why do you coach? It's like, cheap. I've never thought of that. And I said, I just enjoy it. I just enjoy making a difference in people's lives. And it's like, okay, you're in it for the right reasons. And that question got me thinking, because when I moved back, I got involved. Well, I was heading up the high performance at Gauteng Cricket, coaching under 19s, under 23s, running that whole system. And I started to develop this strong idea, as a lot of people know. I'm a massive Basa.
Yes.
He's very proud now because Basa is back.
And
it's very quiet.
He reveals it now.
And look, it just happened in that era that Pep Guardiola just took over Barcelona's young coach. As a 37-year-old, taking over such a massive institution, club, and I thought to myself, if he can do it at 37, I think I was about 26, 27 then. I started looking at it and saying, I can actually do it. I can do it before that. So, and then I sat down with my CEO then, Enoch Nkwe, and he believed in it.
Really?
He believed, and he literally said to me, there's a 5-year plan. Do you buy in or not? Wow. For me, that picture was so clear, so loud, so strong. I said, I'm in it. Because he believed I can actually coach the Lions. It was quite scary because I've literally just transitioned from playing. I'm still trying to figure myself out. When that journey of coaching started, I started again with the people that I was speaking to and believing in me. I started to develop this powerful vision for Lions cricket. Very, very strong. And the fact that I came through that system, it made it even more powerful. And I thought, this is it. I'm gonna start developing or building the structures now. Because down the line, they're gonna feed into me when I take over their Lions. I actually started to believe that I'm gonna actually coach the Lions one day. So I need to take care of
slower structures.
The steps, the foundation, the system here, because I want to make sure that by the time I take over the Lions, it actually feeds into the team that will be coaching them. And it just became an enjoyable journey, I must say. Not to say, I mean, I still love coaching. It is my number one passion. And it will always be. And I enjoy those 7 years. And I just needed to keep reminding myself through difficult times, great times. Fortunately enough, I had people like making my life a lot easier.
Did he really?
In implementing the strategies, the team strategies, the game plans, and all of that. And,
Chief, what are you asking?
I'm asking you. It's a genuine question.
And look, there was a lot of success in that whole journey, in the coaching journey, which obviously made it much more enjoyable. But for me, it's always been about the bigger picture of building a strong system. And unfortunately, I got to a point where I felt I reached the ceiling as a coach, and that's when I left. I went overseas for 3 years because I just felt I just couldn't do it anywhere else but Lions. So I couldn't go anywhere else or any other franchise
in the country.
I was after Strikers, by the way.
After Strikers. I just felt it would be wrong of me to almost continue this journey elsewhere. So hence, I needed to go test my coaching philosophy
elsewhere,
overseas, and see, what I actually learn and pick up and how I can actually grow. And then when I came back, I had the opportunity of taking over the Lions. And luckily the systems were still pretty much the same. And it was just a matter of now connecting the Lions, to the rest of the system. And things actually worked out. So yeah.
Before you ask,
hot mic.
and it's probably a question to the both of you. How was that journey and enjoying those successes as a franchise, winning all those titles? How many 4-day titles? How many 1-day titles? How many T20 titles?
Won all of them. I think times 2.
Yeah. So how was that period of enjoying that success? Was it a period of, look, we can still do more? I know the current Lions side have targeted 3 titles in the season, which they've already got 1 in the T20 Challenge, and there's a 4-day series and then the 1-day cup. But how was that success for both player and coach at the time to say, we're actually really doing something great here?
Yeah, look, it's always been my thing about a treble, winning a treble.
The soccer in him comes out.
Yeah, that's a soccer in me. It's always been my thing, winning trebles. So when I came back to Lions, I made it clear from the get-go that part of my vision is being treble winners. And he knows it very well. We used to have a lot of, not only with him, there's quite a few players that knew. We used to have a lot of banter around, treble, Real Madrid, Barcelona, and all of that. Pep Guardiola, So that's always been my thing. Is part of greatness for me is winning a treble. So we always strive for that. But we needed to figure out what sort of system do we need to put in place to actually do that. And then it was the same as Strikers. It was the same at under 19 cricket. So that was sort of a mindset. But we needed to put basics in place, but also create a culture of excellence, obviously of belonging and all of that. But the main thing needed to remain the main thing on the field. And like I said, I think it was important that the team, not only the team, but even outside of the team, people in the office, everybody else understood exactly what the direction, what we wanted to achieve. So it was a thing of winning a treble and being the first team to retain it. And things look happened so quickly, and to be part of the pipeline that enjoys so much success from under 19 cricket. You know, whether it was Cubs Week, Coke Week, or the Kamajola Week, winning Kamajola in 2010, and as a player, we won it in in 2000?
It's still called Kamajola then.
Yeah, back then it wasn't.
Nuffield.
No, it was just Coke Week.
Coke Week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and when I coached, it became Kamajola Cricket Week. You know, dominating under 19 cricket, under 23 cricket, Cubs Week, and a semi-pro cricket, which was the Strikers. It was special, you know, because you're doing it in an environment or place where you come from, where everything happened for you. Yeah. From the age of 11, playing mini cricket to going through the entire pipeline as a cricketer, and then having to now do it as a coach. And again, it was, for me, what am I in? Why am I doing this? To make an impact in people's lives. And that's what it felt like. It felt like I was as a head coach, I was making an impact in people's lives, whether with a management team, together with a management team, or players, and seeing players grow from a semi-pro to becoming professionals and playing for the Lions, and getting to the Lions, seeing players go from Lions to Proteas and becoming superstars. That was special. I don't know how you felt.
I want to touch on it quickly because I think my experience in our journey, I probably started on a bad note because I'm at Wits and I'm not always available for training sessions, which is generally in the mornings. So there was a lot of back and forth. Like, Chief, would like you to be in our space, but you're not always available. So that was the initial relationship. But when I eventually became part of Strikers, I think for me, there was no coach that was more meticulous in terms of detail. I mean, even at semi-pro level. We were going to Cape Town. We would know what the pitch looks like. We would know what the last 5-10 scores would look like. And we would have, let's say, some of the senior provincial games, you might play more than first half. And then the second half, you don't have a lot of games. But we'll plan it to the T, where we'll say, by this time, end of the last fixture in the first half, we'll be number one with this amount of points, possibly leading the race. And when the other teams wake up in Jan, they're chasing us top of it. So for me, that was I've never experienced such detail, and that's what my earlier memories of I had everything at a senior provincial level. And when you make that step to the Lions, it was actually kind of easy. I mean, we play the likes of Devin Conway, who are superstars today, and it was such a really good side, which many actually would have made it. A lot of those guys played professional sport. But I think the one thing that stands out for me, Coach, was it always your thing? Because it never felt that you drove everyone must be a professional. You always drove that thing with if you get involved in a different capacity in the game, or you go to corporate, you become this outstanding person that had this foundation of cricket. Where does that come from? Because again, for me, it's not a lot of coaches drive that thing. It's either you become a professional or you get out to find another person. But you kind of drove that holistic. If it doesn't work out in cricket, it's cool. You can still be an amazing human being somewhere else in South Africa or in the world. Yeah, look, it's I suppose it's always been my thing. Part of me growing up. It had a huge impact, but also along the way, that conversation with Gary McDonald in New Zealand, why am I doing this? I think it also gave me a clearer perspective in terms of, what do I want to get out of coaching, and how do I want to impact every individual? It shouldn't just be about, cricket. There's a bigger picture to it. And I think the opportunity that I had for 4 years, working in the under-19, working in academy and driving that whole high performance, it really solidified the vision, the picture, in terms of where do I want to take the coaching? What sort of environments do I actually want to create? And hence, when I engage with coaches and then they ask for advice, especially when they transition from playing and going into coaching, and that we have those sort of conversations. Those conversations in terms of, try and figure out what do you want to do with the coaching, and what do you want as a person, how you want to go about it.
And one of the things that I did learn, down the line, which I did a lot of research myself, because I enjoy doing a lot of research in, looking into people's successes, especially the coaches, looking into the best practices and all of that around the globe, is, defining your own philosophy.
Yeah.
And if you can actually make it as close as possible to your life philosophy, let's say you're a coach, it makes things a lot easier. Your messaging, the environment that you want to create, there's a clearer meaning why you're actually doing what you're doing. So for me, it's always been about the whole holistic development of the person.
The environment.
Because I knew that even through my own experiences as a cricketer, we're not all going to make it. Yes, we dream, we envision, playing for South Africa, but not all of us are going to make it. We might make it in something else.
Yes.
So while you have the opportunity as an individual to impact and influence this lives of individuals that are trying to figure out their journey, how can you actually do that? How do you empower them? Some of them will make it to Lions and that's their journey. Some of them might go on. Some of them semi-pro and that's it. But they're gonna take so much, professionalism into the corporate, into other spaces. And one of the things I used to encourage a lot, which I still do, is even if whether international cricketer or domestic cricketer or doesn't matter. We in a cricketing ecosystem, we always look for people that have played the game. It can be first class cricket, international cricket, or whatsoever. Whether to be commentators, and a lot of people obviously they do transition into that. It's enjoyable, but we also now starting to look at the medical space. Some of them will study medical and but because they play the game, they understand the nitty-gritties and the requirements we need them back into the game. Some of them will become CEOs. Some of them will become head of pathways, director of cricket, or coaches, or technical coaches, or there's so many aspects in cricket that you can actually look into and look to empower people go into those spaces. We want our system to grow, so that's always been my thinking, to say, okay, obviously back then I was thinking more in the Lions point of view, to say, okay, how do we strengthen Lions cricket? We've had those conversations we used to have. I used to have it with different cricketers, coaches, etc. And I suppose it turned out that way. For some of them, went on into different spaces, and they enjoyed that playing experience because it wasn't just about winning. There was more to it. And and for me, sometimes when I reflect and throughout my journey, it feels good. When I come across certain individuals thanking me and the team that I was with in terms of the impact that we made, in that journey to becoming, whether it's financial advisors or financial managers, and that there's so much that to learn from a team point of view, and that's always been my thing. Is we all have different journeys in life. We do come together, and we have an opportunity to create something special, and let's do that. Because some of them will help some whether it's management or players will help them to become superstars one day. So which it actually happened.
We don't even have time to go into detail. Your first season at the Lions, you win 2 trophies with the Lions and the Mzansi Super League with the Jozi Stars, which was an epic month.
Unbelievable.
If we had to do a documentary of the behind the scenes of that month, that was epic. But Coach, we're gonna just jump forward a little bit to your experience of now. Yes, at an interim basis, of now you're coaching the national team. To India, probably Australia, India, probably the last tours any young coach expects to get up front. your memories of that experience, and if there's anything that you took away from that tough experience, baptism of fire, having to take a South African side to India in those conditions. I mean, they've lost for the first time in such a long period at home. How was that for you, and what did you take away from such an experience? And obviously, being your first time now coaching at a national team.
Yeah, great experience. Look, I mean, there was a whole lot of talks about it. Like, I've been thrown into the deep end and into the wolves and all of that. For me, honestly, it wasn't about that, because internally, it was very clear. We had a 4-year plan. It was very clear in terms of where South African cricket is going, and for me, I saw it as an opportunity, to continue to grow on, what has been implemented at Lions cricket, but now, looking at
national level,
the national level, and I saw it as an opportunity to test myself. But also to start off something special, with the South African team, because that was, if you recall, that was post the 2019 World Cup, which, let's leave it there.
No.
So I just saw it as an opportunity to actually, to define a lot of things within South African cricketers. I mean, within South African cricket, especially at Proteas level. Even a clear identity. I mean, we spoke a lot about the South African DNA and all of that. So for me, it was a great experience. Yes, I mean, a lot of people never talk about that T20 experience. With that team, a young team like that, going to India and drawing the series 1-0. It was a great achievement. We knew the test was always going to be tough. We competed in that first test. In the first test, we competed, taking it to 5 o'clock on the last day. I mean, Dean, Queenie getting big hundreds and that. So, but there was a bigger picture to it. So for me, the fact that there was a big picture, we needed to make sure that we use the India tour as an opportunity to define the South African character, especially the team character, because it needed for us. We needed to unpack it, understand it, and then define it and say, okay, this is who we are moving forward. And unfortunately, the opportunity wasn't there post the India series, which, things happen in life. But for us, it was always about the bigger picture to 2023 World Cup, which was obviously going to be in India, and for us that was the plan, the vision, and all of that. So, and the India experience for me was just test of character as a coach, as players, and then see how we actually respond to that. What do we need to put in place post India to make sure that we learn from those experiences, but also we can compete even better and win in India. That was the thing. So and again, like I said, define the DNA, which is the philosophy, the playing philosophy, and really get a strong buy-in and actually implement it and drive it. Look, I took a lot away from that, from a character point of view. For me, it became very clear that we're not as clear just around the character, the playing philosophy, and we needed to get to a point where as South African cricket, we take full ownership of it. We define it and we take full ownership of it, and then we drive it forward.
There was a lot made about how the Proteas experience ended for you. Now, as being an assistant coach, how that sort of came to an end. Were you happy with how that phase of your coaching career came to an end, and then transitioning into this new role that you're in now? Talk us through that experience of, okay, I'm calling time on me being in this Proteas environment as a coach.
Yeah, look, it was not easy at all. It was tough, but as a coach and as an international cricketer, or let me say professional cricketer, there are gonna come points in your career or your life where you need to make some tough calls and not so famous calls and that, but yeah, you need to. And unfortunately, I found myself in a position where I felt I could add more value or make more of an impact in a different capacity. And hence, when I resigned, I needed time out to go and reflect on my journey, take the key learnings, and look at, okay, how do I move forward? How do I still remain involved in South African cricket to make an impact? And I got an opportunity as at Lions Cricket, as a technical director there. It's almost, it felt good to sort of go back to where it all started. And because it felt at that particular time there was some unfinished business. Like I always say, it's always been about the treble and the bigger picture. And when this journey sort of stopped, which was tough, because I've always wanted to coach, the Proteas and see the Proteas win the World Cup and all of that. But in that whole transition, it was tough, but I needed to make peace and think of a solution moving forward. I never ever thought I would become a director of cricket. That I'll be honest. Honestly, I didn't even think that I will apply for it. For me, it was go back to square one, go back to the basics. What do you actually want to figure out? What I want to actually do, how I can still impact South African cricket. And when this opportunity came, I wasn't sure if I should transition from coaching into administration. I spoke to quite a few people. I wasn't sure, and because, like I said, coaching for me will always be number one, passion, and it was tough, but I knew that maybe I can coach in a different way, and maybe sort of build a team to coach the system in a different way, and then continue on the journey that we started in 2019 as when I was obviously interim coach. But what did that journey look like? What did the picture look like? So some of the stuff that we worked on, I can actually look to implement as a director of cricket, and hopefully the system can actually buy in and we can actually go after the 2027 World Cup and beyond that. So that's in short, that's pretty much my experience then. In coaching, there are always going to be clashes in terms of philosophy, in terms of seeing things and all of that. It's part of life, you understand? And I don't like it when people make a big thing out of it, because you see it a lot in football, in other spaces where the club will hire a coach and only to figure out down the line that the coach doesn't quite fit the philosophy of the club, and they get rid of the coach. But people don't talk about that. So it's unfortunate that in the South African contest, things were not working out the way we had envisioned them, and I needed to find a way on how I can actually still impact the system, and I just saw that obviously whether some might argue that the timing was not right or not, doesn't matter for me, but I needed to make a tough call, which was very uncomfortable for myself, for everybody else, and that led me obviously to this point.
It's funny. There's always a coincidence between me and him. It's my first ever season in professional cricket, or semi-pro, was under him. And after that season, he left to Holland at the Strikers, at the Lions. We win the double and the Josie Stars, and he leaves us to the Proteas. So it always, when you're thinking, we are building something, we are cooking, and then to the next place. But Coach, again, just taking it forward to now you've left the coaching phase of your life. South Africa has never had directors of cricket. Graham Smith becomes the first director of cricket. It's a new role in a professional space. We see it a lot in the school systems, but like it's not something that is big in the South African professional game. Graham eventually walks away. You stepping into being the second director, or now obviously you've got a new slightly tweaked title, Director of National Teams plus High Performance, which is, it's tweaked. So how do you then walk into a job where hasn't truly been defined in terms of what you are doing, and you have to figure out where you take South Africa forward, or how you take South Africa forward?
Yeah, that was my mindset coming into the job. When I was offered the job, obviously went through the process of interviews and that, and that was my thing, because I understood that it's still a fairly new position in the South African context. I mean, it's very known in England because of county cricket and all of that. In the South African, I needed to try and give myself time and working with everybody involved at high level to try and obviously define it better moving forward in terms of the director of cricket, and hence it got to this point where there needed to be a restructure of the role, because if you look at the changing landscape of cricket globally, the demands of it, and then also within our domestic system, how we needed to prioritize that and strengthen our domestic product. One person can't do it. We needed to make sure that we become more specific, more focused in terms of what needs to be delivered. So I spent 2.5 years also trying to figure out what the role is and all of that, and it's been a challenging but an enjoyable experience. And I'm hoping that one day, as a system, we can actually get to a point where even at a member level, we have people heading up, cricket. And I'm sure we will get there. I'm sure we will get there, because I think it will also define the role a lot better, and I think people will understand the role much better. Just like how we do with players and coaches. Players are developed, through our domestic structures. So as coaches, and I think with this new role, we need to almost do the same. And to help South African cricket in the long run, to prepare people for different positions. And I think down the line that will happen. And I honestly believe, the more obviously we spend time in defining this role, it to become a lot clearer and clearer down the line to see, what is actually required, what is the main thing for this role. And I think we're getting there slowly. I think we're getting there. And it's what can I say?
What were the challenges for you to, like, now you're shaping South African cricket that you had to face, and where do you feel you are now on your current journey? Because it's quite clear for all of us who are in the game to have seen some of your successes, obviously the finals, both men and women. But like for you now, where you are reshaping, what are some of the challenges that you experience, and also what have been the successes from your side of maybe some of us are not privy to say, I know you're very humble, you probably won't want to name everything, but like a bit of taste of what's been happening behind the scenes for you.
You know me well. I never like to talk about the successes. I think there's been a lot of people in this journey that have helped me as well, to transition into this space. Eddie Koza as the head of Pathways, well experienced, well-oiled machine. He's played a meaningful role, in helping me transition into this. Because
administration,
because he understood very clear in terms of, coming from coaching into the space, it's not easy. You understand? And look, and obviously our new ESCO, we needed to figure out with all the challenges of the past.
Yes.
How do we overcome all of that? But how do we shape the future?
Yeah.
You know, and also the board, and you know, it's but also the system, the rest of the system.
Yeah.
And our first point was obviously we needed to define the blueprint.
Yeah.
We needed to do, which we actually did, a workshop to try and unpack some of the challenges, some of the things that were actually been done right or are helping us here, you know, move towards the right direction.
Yeah.
And that was what, 2.5 years ago, when we met with all the coaches conference, and then we actually spoke cricket.
Yeah.
We unpacked the system and try and define the way forward.
Yeah.
With a clear understanding of, as a director of cricket, how do I see South African cricket?
Yeah.
You know, what is the vision?
Yeah.
And it was, those 2 days were so productive, so deep.
Yeah.
Actually, I loved it.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It actually felt like I was a coach.
Yeah. Back in coaching
Back
again.
in coaching and that. And we are very honest in terms of the system, but also where we want to take the system.
Yeah.
You know, and some of obviously the changes that happened before me.
Yeah.
They might have also made a huge impact in terms of some of the results and all of that. But yeah, I don't think I would have actually, gone through the last 2 years without the team that I actually had to help me, you know, drive a simple idea of defining our way forward, of how we're gonna actually compete better and win World Cups.
Yeah.
So change of mindset in our system. I think that became a number one priority. Changing the mindset, the Proteas level, changing the mindset, you know, domestic level, and there was a strong buy-in to say, okay, this is what we need to do, and who's going to be the driver of it, and look, it will never be that comfortable for everyone just to sort of buy in to a new idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because a lot of people obviously before me have come up with different ideas, etc. You know, how we can actually dominate world cricket. So, but we needed to come up with one thing that we all believe can actually impact South African cricket in a positive way, both men and women. And it's been a great journey. There's been a lot as a person, as director of cricket, I needed to learn administratively and understand to the T. You know, but cricket needed to remain the main thing at the end of it. And look, it's still a long journey. There's still a lot that needs to be done. You know, but as long as we continue to work together, you know, we go to conferences, we can unpack a lot of things, a lot of challenges, but come up with solutions. You know, because for me, it's I'm so solution driven. That I'll be honest, you know, time to time there are things that really frustrate me because, you know, I want to get to the point. You know, I can see the picture; it's very clear. But sometimes it's like
takes time.
It takes time, you know, and it takes too long. And where I want to just implement it, you know, let's see the results. It's almost like you become a coach. Because you can see the journey, you can see the bigger picture, and you know, just do it. You know, sometimes you don't have a lot of reason why you're doing it and all of it, but you see it. And it's always going to be the challenge to try and get everyone to actually buy in. It takes time. It's like culture change. It can take time. You're not dealing with one franchise here. You know, you're dealing with different levels of structures within, so internally and externally. And you need, you know, you're trying to get everybody else to buy into the simple idea and how we're actually going to win the World Cup. And that will be the work that we'll continue to do. And as long as, you know, we stay connected to that journey, and we're doing it for the right reasons, I honestly believe that we will win the World Cup. There's no doubt about it. But
one more question. What is then the state of domestic cricket? From your opinion, I mean, you've spent the last 2.5 years in a position where you're tasked to look after the ecosystem of South African cricket.
Yeah.
Where do you see the state of domestic cricket at the moment? Because we, as people who follow and participate actively in domestic cricket, we can see some of the improvements, some of the challenges that are still there in domestic cricket, but in a bigger point of view, we see a big progress in terms of how domestic cricket and the state of it and how it can still improve is from the outside looking in. From somebody who's tasked within to be able to improve that system, fix the challenges, and continue to improve it to a state where, like you say, we want to win the World Cup in 2027 and beyond that. Where does the state of domestic cricket right now in South Africa sit? Is it in a healthy position? Are there still so many other things that still need to be fixed to get it to a healthy position?
Yeah, it depends how you look at it. I think in terms of on-field, we're making progress. It is going to take time. I know there's a lot of criticism from different, different levels and different, angles and all of that. Sometimes people tend to forget that, especially with the restructuring. It's only been 3 years.
Yes.
We all know new systems take time.
Yes.
The franchise system, how long did it take? You understand? And I honestly believe, in terms of with the talent that we have, moving from year to year, we seeing. It's for me, it's very, very exciting. Because I'm seeing serious talent. I'm seeing, that competitive edge that is coming through. And there's no doubt that as long as we stay glued and we're all in it for the right reasons, and we want to improve the domestic structure with all these challenges of the leagues and all of that. As long as we all buy in and we, like I said, we all glued and invested, domestic product will become better. And there's ideas floating around in terms of how to even strengthen it and create a stronger meaning to domestic cricket. There are ideas, I mean, we recently had a CEC, and there's ideas, been thrown, and so we're looking into how we can actually even better and improve domestic cricket because it's such an important vehicle for us to our national teams. And we understand that it's also an important vehicle to SA20 and to other T20 leagues around the world. So the work will continue to be invested in our domestic product because we have a good schooling system. How does that feed into our domestic? So this every year we're looking at in terms of where can we strengthen? How do we make sure that we produce even better quality of players? How do we ensure that that transition phase is a lot shorter? Because now we're starting to see a lot of under 19 cricketers, being competing on world stages. I mean, look at a Mapaka, you look at a Brevis. We have this thing of producing world class under 19 players. I mean, we've seen it from the days of Dom Hendricks. I mean, now over the last 4 years, we've had 2 under 19 player of the tournaments. In the last 4 years, literally.
KG, Quinny,
exactly. So we have something great happening in our system. Maybe sometimes we actually don't tell. We don't say enough. Good things that we actually do in our system. We can easily get caught up in the negativity around our domestic structures. But domestic cricket globally, it is under pressure. But you gotta look at ways to strengthen how to strengthen that product. How to make it even more attractive. So, and those are some of the things that we're currently doing because it is a strong feeder into our national teams. And we need to take care of that. So in terms of the direction that we're going, I'm excited about it, to be honest. And I'd like to see everybody, continue to be invested in our domestic product because it is producing. We see new talent, and it is going to grow to a point where it's very competitive.
Yes,
it will. We just gotta give it time.
Yeah.
And identify areas that we just need to improve on.
Yeah.
Look, it's the promotion relegation has made a lot of people very uncomfortable, but it has brought in something different in our South African system. And I don't know, maybe it's a coincidence that with the new system, Proteas are starting to do well.
Yeah.
Because we have also a new generation of players that are breaking through.
Yeah.
And that's making an impact. Whether it's Test cricket or white ball cricket.
Yeah.
We're seeing that.
Yeah.
So something good and healthy is actually happening in our domestic cricket.
Yeah.
And we need to recognize it and continue doing the good things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, identify areas where we can actually improve.
Yeah.
I've actually enjoyed. I mean, you guys have obviously Cricket South Africa. There's a clear identity now of the testing hunter in terms of how cricket must be played. And I mean, the Warriors last season were probably the most exciting team in the country. Yeah. I think we saw this season the Titans join the party. Yeah. I think in all three phases they were the team that was most exciting. But when trophies don't go to those teams, maybe some people would just be looking at the end product and maybe judging them in terms of but they didn't win the trophy. Yeah. But in terms of the direction, you might feel as a DOC, maybe it's aligned to exactly what you guys are looking for. But when you're talking about domestic cricket, then I mean the difficulty of defined windows, for example, where when everyone knows SA20 falls between January and February, and having to give the other structures of domestic cricket a place and a home where, for example, I felt this T20 challenge was probably a very exciting one because it's fresher wickets. It's not tired wickets at the end of the season, where we saw a good, I think it was 200s that were scored this season, which is really what we want to see. How important it is for you to have clear, defined, so that at least people know in advance what happens when, so that you also give like some recognition for some of these guys who never maybe play at an SA20. How important is that to also define some of the windows for the guys who actually might end up just playing domestic cricket?
Yeah, good question. It's been the discussion, and moving forward, we actually gonna have that T20 window, like we had it this season. That's gonna be set now. That's what we want. Something drastically will have to happen, in order for that to change. But we want to align it to the SA20 auction. Like you say, fresher wicket. Again, in this period, it also gives an opportunity to some of the players that we don't know of. An opportunity, to put their hand up and hopefully they can get taken up to SA20 and play for some of the franchises, which will help us in the long run, but also in terms of our bigger picture from a Proteas point of view. So, and that's something that we are committed to say this is going to be a set window. It might move probably maybe by a week or two, but this is a period we've identified because again, outside of that, it's again the window of the SAA program. We want to solidify and make sure that it's set so it leads up to the season as well. So, and we're looking for more content from an SAA point of view to try and bridge the gap between domestic cricket and obviously international cricket. So there's a lot of discussions behind the scenes, but from an implementation point of view, we are committing to the set window. And then, and then obviously for the rest of the season, we need to sort of try and align it to, to the FTP as well. But if it doesn't, it's not end of the world. It's not a train smash because at the end of the day, cricketers are playing a lot of cricket nowadays. I know there's a lot of cry for more content at domestic, but the reality is that like you said, SA20 has a set window. There's only so much that we can fit into a domestic domestic season calendar. On top of that, there's the Proteas and all of it. It's always been there, and that will remain. So But also one of the reasons why we want this window dedicated to T20 Challenge, it gives us an opportunity also to strengthen domestic cricket and have something for our members to try and take out there and market and commercialize and all of that. So so there's many things that go into making sure that we have a set window for T20 cricket. We are looking at we are looking into other formats as well. In terms of how do we play more games. In a small a small calendar of domestic cricket. So like I said, there's a cry out for more cricket.
Yes.
And we have to look at that and then see how we can actually improve, because more cricket better for obviously our domestic players.
I would love to know, in terms of you, what type of number that looks like is in terms of for domestic cricket. Would you say a good 30 games for domestic cricket is a good season, or 35, whatever? You don't have to define it. I mean, 1 round maybe for T20, 2 rounds for 4-day cricket. I mean, especially you feel maybe development-wise, probably 50 and 4-day cricket. That's where you'd like your players to maybe spend more time to grow themselves. And the other part is, I mean, it can't be South African cricket without actually talking about transformation. I always feel sad is that it's always hyped on a World Cup year, and we don't ever talk about the in between the years. And as someone who's currently doing his level 3, I've been lucky enough to get to see some of the work that actually happened behind the scene, which is opened my eyes to maybe the public is also not aware of the work that's happening behind the scene. Are we going to get to a place where we no longer, this is not a conversation that we always have to drive, it's something that happens automatically, because it's kind of been tough to always now having to be asked to talk about this thing in a World Cup year when maybe opportunities could have been happening a lot earlier for guys, so that by a World Cup year we've got a big pool of players we can select from, and they just happen to be.
I think we are going to get to a point where it's not a discussion anymore. I think it's just happening automatically. But again, it's if we all buy in and we're all committed to it, in making the difference. I'll be honest with you, I think sometimes we make a headache of it as a system instead of looking at it as a solution. And I like what Rassi has said previously, to say that let's look at transformation as a solution to our country. Or for our country. So and why it is, sometimes you ask yourself, why is it such a discussion? Why can't we just be invested in it and actually do it? You understand? Yes, there are going to be windows where we regress. There are going to be windows where we're thriving and all of that, in terms of producing players for different formats. We understand that, but we got to plan ahead and be mindful of those windows where we might regress. And what is a plan? What is a strategic plan? What is like now in T20 cricket? Look, it's a challenge. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a challenge. But we've come up with a plan in terms of to make sure that we don't find ourselves 2 years from now with the same situation that we encountered back in May. And so those are all key learnings, but we need everybody, the entire system, because our pathway programs have been fantastic. So we ask ourselves questions in terms of, so if our pathway programs have been great and they are producing, so what is the issue at professional level? Why some of them are not kicking on in this particular format? And those are so we're working out some of the intervention, especially whether it's individual or team or groups or whatever
coaching.
It is. From a coaching point of view, and some of the individual needs that might be needed to address some of those challenges, because it's not to say we don't have that. We have the talent, but how come that talent is not kicking on?
Yes.
And that's something we're unpacking at the moment we're diving deeper into to try and understand, because we have the talent and our system will continue to. I'm excited about even the next generation of cricketers that are coming through, from our all-rounders to batters, even bowlers. Yes, we've always, as a system, we've been
Fast
known
bowlers.
to produce bowlers, but there's exciting all-rounders that are coming through. Something different from a spinning department, but also from a batting department. But the key is going to be working together with our domestic structures to ensure that we are aligned and ultimately we produce the best cricketers for the country. And the young black African cricketer is getting the same opportunities and is being backed exactly the same way as a white cricketer or any. So those are things we're looking into, and I have no doubt that we're gonna see the difference moving forward.
So one more, and in terms of, I mean, the coaches play a significant part. I played, under you, where we happen to have 8 players of color. It just happened. Oh, that's actually the team. Without realizing, still won trophies. Under Jeff was also the same. It just happens to be. How important is that mindset also for coaches, where numbers is not used now as a thing that you must adhere to, but it's something that actually I'm going to develop every player as I would, 100%. And it just happens to be, this is the team that goes on the field, instead of now saying these are the numbers, I'm going to stick to the numbers because I have to do this.
No, it is, well, from my own experience and where I find myself, I would believe that that's the coach's mindset. Because at professional level we need to create a high performance environment for everyone. So whether you're black, you're white, you're Indian, you're colored, it shouldn't matter. When you come into that environment, you should know what you're about, what the environment is about, and how you're going to succeed. And every player should be given the support that is needed to succeed. You understand? So we should have that mindset. There shouldn't be a divided mindset for specific players to be given this sort of support and this player to be getting now. Because all the work is done at the bottom. So why do we then have issues when you get closer to the top? We shouldn't. Players, they all play against each other, they play together, and throughout the whole pathway system. And in saying that, we also obviously trying to influence the mindset at pathway, age groups and all of that, so that we're carrying through the same mindset to take into the professional setup. So for me, if there are coaches that think like that, that would be sad, because in any other sport at professional level, it should never be about race or anything. It should be about, okay, there's a player with serious talent. They make it into the professional setup. How do you empower them to make sure that they actually grow to the next level? Like you spoke earlier, some of them might not break through into the international, but they walk away with a great experience of playing professional cricket. Eddie Khoza actually speaks a lot about day-to-day positive experiences. And that's exactly that. That's what we're trying to create in our system, that every cricketer, every coach, everyone that is involved in our system, they have a positive experience. And how do we drive that on a daily basis? And ultimately, we need to make sure we create those thriving environment, high performance environment with at domestic level, to make sure we're preparing our players for the next level. And I'm just hoping that there's no coach that thinks like that out there, but is actually looking at the cricketer, whether if it happens that it's a black African cricketer and it happens that batter bats in the top 3, how do you empower that individual to excel, to do well for your team, have the champion mindset, that winning mindset, and actually do well for South Africa one day. For me, that becomes the main thing. But if we're not doing that, and we're only doing to a certain race, that becomes an issue. You understand? So I honestly believe that we need to do that across the board. It becomes the culture, and And I have no doubt that we'll even see more cricketers breaking through into international space.
Yeah, we want to shoot a couple of questions before we let you go. I know we've gone on for quite a long time. Let's look into the future of South African cricket. There are FTPs that have been criticized from a men's point of view. There's a new one for the women's now that will start in 2025 to 2029. More test matches slated for women's cricket in that period, 2025 to 2029. Does that excite you, as the director of cricket, to be able to see the women's game develop in that facet and see them play more test match cricket? We've seen against India, we've seen it against Australia, England. We haven't played a lot of test match cricket, but now between 2025 and 2029 there's a whole lot more test matches slated for that. Does that excite you as director of cricket for South Africa?
Extremely.
Yeah.
Exciting. The ladies have been asking for more red ball cricket. And it's something we're looking into, even in our hard performance. Because you can't only just play to the highest level. So we gotta figure out, and strategically it's something that we're gonna be looking into, because it is the pinnacle. Test cricket is the pinnacle, will always be, and everybody wants to play test cricket. The ladies are asking for some sort of a place where they can develop those skills, and it does help to strengthen your skills, because you get tested in so many ways in red ball cricket, and because that's been now the experience with our Proteas women's team, playing in different conditions against Australia, India and England, to see the benefits, to see how they actually grow in a short period of time. And I think tests, even though it hasn't been a lot of test cricket, but I honestly believe that it had a part in growing the T20 game in general, because the learnings from test cricket are so fundamentally powerful, in terms of the individual game, but also the team, because you go through so many situations as an individual and as a team that you can take into other different formats. And I think if I look at someone like even a Laura or a Kapi, look at their game, how it has grown, especially in a shorter format. But you look at what they've experienced, especially in test cricket. And I honestly believe the more they do that, including the bowlers, the more they play, obviously, red ball cricket in every tour, I honestly believe that it will strengthen, upskill them and all of that in other two formats.
Are there plans then from a South African point of view to have some sort of a domestic format for them, like for their cricket, to be able to develop those skills to ready them for test match cricket?
Down the line, So we first need to obviously look at within high performance. So for example, it's just a discussion at the moment, like we did with the Women's Super League. That used to take place. Identify a group of cricketers, play during the certain period, and all of that. So now we want to almost with similar format, but do it in red ball cricket. Maybe introduce a 2-day, play a couple of 2-day matches, with identified group of players, and then see how that goes, and then grow it to 3-day cricket. And then if we're getting a positive response, and obviously down the line, maybe look at a competition. But there's an appetite for red ball cricket. There's no doubt.
I mean, under your term, there's been the new HP high performance manager. You've introduced different coaches in the men's side, 2 different coaching teams. In the women's team, there's been a new, couple of new coaches that have been added there. There's been quite a few changes that bolted some success as well in that short period of time. And obviously now we're about to start the summer of cricket in South Africa. How excited have you been to some of those add-ons that you've had, and you're obviously seeing the success? And then the second part is obviously India is about to start at the end of this week. England is going to be coming to South Africa pretty soon, and the whole summer of cricket is about to start in South Africa. I'm sure you must be excited of all those things that have been happening as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's every time we sort of start, we go into this period, it's always become exciting because it brings in a completely different energy, into our space in South Africa. And you can feel also the public, they start to gear up, towards the summer of cricket, and because it's such a beautiful game, man. You can take a friend out for a 3-hour event, for a 7-hour event, for a 5 days. You understand? So it depends what you enjoy the most. But funny enough, when we did a bit of research around what do the fans enjoy the most, and it is, especially from an international point of view, outside of SA20, Test cricket
came up top.
It came up top. Came up top, which is, for me, is not a surprise, because the reason why I say that, I saw it, I think it was in my first year where we played Australia away during Christmas period. And there was so much noise in South Africa from our fans, key stakeholders, everybody, to say, can CSA, I say CSA, I say us as CSA, we were criticized so much for not hosting a test series during that period in South Africa and playing it away. For me, it meant something. That the South African public, even the newer generation, they love test cricket. And you're starting to look at the audience that actually come to Boxing Day and the New Year's
test.
It's different audience as well. You have obviously your older generation, your mid, and then your newer generation. So for me, I get excited, when this period comes. Yes, it's hectic. Trust me. And the beautiful thing about it is that both men and women are playing, so there's going to be so much content. And coming back to the structures, look, we needed to obviously look deep into areas that we can actually improve. Also do something different that, as a cricketing nation, we've never done before. And we needed to also envision what the future is going to look like. And I think earlier offline we chatted a little bit about the whole Pakistan and Sri Lanka series. And England has shown it during the summer, I think a year or two, where they were playing Test cricket, and on the same time they were playing white ball cricket. I think against Netherlands. And I think that's what is going to be happening down the line. So when I was involved with the Proteas as an assistant coach, I could see that. I could see what potentially could have happened down the line in world cricket. And we are finding closer, we're getting closer and closer to a point where we're gonna need to have our red ball and white ball playing. Playing concurrently, and that's going to become a reality. So, but we also looked at this new structure of red ball and white ball, looking at 2027, and looking at the World Test Championship. We needed to make sure that, especially the head coaches, they have the right type of energies coming into the environment, because it's tough for one coach, to go from
all of it,
from all three different formats to everything on top of each other. I mean, look at the schedule now. So we needed, especially the coaching structures, to bring in different energies, because we do that now with players. Where we rest in certain players in different formats and that, but why can't we do that with the coaches? So it's something that we'll continue to obviously reassess as we go. The landscape could change in after 2027, and things could completely look different, and we might have to go back to one coach or keep the same structure. We just have to continue to review. But for me, it made a lot of sense, while we're looking at 2027, broadening up the base of players to have two different energies, but also the red ball and the white ball philosophies, playing philosophy, are a little bit different.
Yeah.
But as long as the mindset is geared towards one thing, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah. When it comes to now, some of the public might not be like, why are we playing 2 test series only when England, Australia, India, maybe even India has become 2? But like maybe they don't quite understand why we're not playing more test cricket. Because obviously, I mean, this summer now, we've got 2 tests against Sri Lanka. Important ones, because, I mean, the team is not far off from kind of qualifying for that, those first 2 positions of the test championship, which will be amazing. But like, then India is only coming here to play white ball. How do you then maybe just give some insight to some of the people that love the game but like wish we had more test cricket, but maybe the difficulty of giving more, like you've said, obviously the calendar is getting shorter and shorter. How do you fit all this cricket in?
Yeah, look, it's tough. I mean, looking at the FTP, you're trying to fit in all these formats, and yes, we've managed to secure obviously the SA20 window, which it's very, very important, for in so many ways for South African cricket.
Decision you were criticized for basically as now everyone enjoys it.
Yeah, everyone will always be criticized for for that, but we needed to be also realistic in terms of the sustainability of the game in South African cricket. But outside of that, yes, looking at the FTP, it's congested. There's very little window. Before we never had World Cups. Now we have World Cups every year. So and sometimes we tend to forget that all those things were not in place before, but now they are. But how do we try and obviously look for more content? And hence I said earlier, because we are working behind the scenes to try and find more windows for Test cricket. And hence I say that we're gonna get to a point where we're playing Test cricket, let's say in South Africa, and maybe overseas we play white ball cricket, just in order to just fit in more Test cricket, because we do want more Test. There's no doubt, So if things work out according to our plan, we, there's something we're working on in the pipeline to try and obviously bring in more Test cricket, and if we manage to secure that, it's going to be exciting news, obviously, for Test followers, but also for our cricketers, for the entire ecosystem, because it is, for us, it is very, very important, Test cricket. And we've seen the benefits of it, the rewards against Bangladesh. A lot of, especially even the younger generation, wants to play Test cricket. And we've seen, the Tony Dizozi, Stubbs, and Vian Mulder performing on difficult conditions, which it goes to show, how committed they are in that form.
The appetite for
it's not just about the T20. It's not just about ODI cricket, but there's something big here. And and hopefully in a couple of months' time from now, we can also, we can sit and have this discussion with some exciting news from a Test cricket point of view, but only if we're able to lock in something. That would be great. So
again, another one which is basically the same ballpark. How do, as well, where, make an example, a player gets rested for the Proteas, and someone also doesn't understand. I saw that guy playing a week ago, playing in a franchise tournament. But like the importance from Cricket South Africa's point of view to appease the player and still retain them in your system as being a nationally contract player. How important is that? Because I mean, you've lost because it doesn't have a national contract to Shamsi. You've got Andrek Nokia, who's no longer part, but he's still committed to the South African cause, but might be in a different format. How do you then balance that with someone doesn't understand why this guy is choosing not to be involved, and at the same time
he's playing
somewhere else?
Look, it's a difficult thing to juggle, but one thing we've been honest and clear with our players is, let's have a discussion. Let's plan forward, and we knew we were going to get to this point because of the changing landscape and so much interest, and T20 League is very attractive financially, you know, and some players are getting to the back end of their careers. And we do understand that, you know, priorities change, but one thing that remains is the love to play for the country. You know, so that is always there. But for us now is to try and work out even a much more improved structure on how do we balance the two. And we look at it as an opportunity also to blood in. So while all of this is happening, we see an opportunity to say, hey, this is actually an opportunity for, you know,
this player,
that player, you know, and then where maybe before, that opportunity wouldn't, you know, present itself. So while we faced with these challenges, there's an opportunity, and that's been pretty much our mindset approaching this entire thing. And for us, obviously, it's going to make sure that we keep track of the players that are not involved in every series, but are still committed to the South African cause. You know, which again, everything will go back to the player taking ownership of their game and other elements that, you know, that they need to take care of to make sure that they're ready for an international game. But there's so much. Hence we've had to restructure my position as well, because that landscape is becoming so demanding and so detailed, meaning that every day there's something, and we need to dive deeper into it, you know, and re-strategize and look at a better way of doing things, so that we don't drop the ball. And you know, the whole thing with Shemzi, you know, we met, we discussed pros and cons. You know, at the end of the day, it's his decision and we respect it. But now, how do we move forward? You know, so the owners will always sit with the player, but we want to support the player as well at the same time. And keeping in mind that there's also an exciting generation that is coming through. So we have to, at the end of the day, be realistic about the entire picture. You know, and so we seeing an opportunity to blood in. While
Peter.
Exactly. You know, maybe we wouldn't have had those opportunities to blood in quite a few of cricketers over the last couple of months. And we will encourage them, obviously, if there's opportunities elsewhere to go and play, gain international experience, grow your experience in different environments, different challenges. You know, so it's such a puzzle that sometimes it can be quite difficult to understand when you try and put it all together, and I can understand sometimes why it doesn't make sense to the public, you know, because if you look at other sporting codes,
there's windows,
and all of that. With cricket, we don't. We need to be very strategic, because now we've also introduced this thing of conditioning windows. You know, KG Rabada, Marco Jansen, and Akutia, we needed to prioritize them and say, there's a window for you to go and recondition yourself, whether it's technically or physically or emotionally or whatever it is. So we, you know, and then we build a plan on that to say we're gonna have the 3 months or the 2 months or the 6 months, whatever it is, and you know, follow this plan, and then we help and all of it. And I mean, look at KG now, you know, and you know, Marco Jansen, and that's what we're gonna be doing with every player moving forward. Some players might only need 3-week window for reconditioning. Some players 6 weeks, some players 3 months.
A little bit longer.
It's not like back in the days where World Cups were every 2 years. And you could have a
longer
good window.
Time to
Where now it's chock-a-block. Inbound, outbound tours. So we need to make some tough calls. To try and improve the player, but also improve the system.
I've got 2 questions.
Almost done,
We're almost done. 2 questions. There's been, depending who you listen to and where you are and who you are, the decision to drop selection panels was sort of received differently from different people. Is there a plan to bring selection panels back? Are you happy with how the selection has been since you've dropped the selection panels and selectors? And then looking at Project 2027 at winning the World Cup, how far are we? I know the cycle is still very much in its infancy, but building up to a home World Cup, how much pressure and responsibility is there on you as the director of cricket, but also from a Cricket South Africa point of view, to be able to have what you've been saying, squads where there's a big pool of talent to pick from?
There's always going to be pressure. One thing I can say that we've done well as a system, as Cricket South Africa as a whole, because Cricket South Africa is not the office.
Yes,
it's us all in South African cricket. We've hosted well, so we have a lot of experience on hosting major events.
Yes,
from under 19 to 2003 to Champions Trophy in 2009.
Yeah.
To
IPLs,
T20 World Cup last
Women's
year,
under 19,
Women's, you know what I'm saying? So we have such experience, and when we get an opportunity like that, it's almost like the whole cricket ecosystem comes together.
Yeah,
and I wanna make it as successful as it can be.
Yeah,
you know. So we've been very good when it comes to that. Yeah. We just need to get it right on the field.
Yeah.
So the plan is on track, you know, to make sure that we have a very competitive and a team that is going to win 2027. Yeah. It's a must. We owe it to everyone. We owe it to the continent, to our nation, you know, to all the South African followers out there globally. So 2027 is a must win. Yeah. Leading up to that is the World Test Championship. That's also part of the plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, to get to that. So yeah, so it's exciting.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of work that needs to go in on and off the field.
Yep.
You know, to make sure that we're ready, and we can deliver a very successful World Cup on and off the field. Yeah. You know, because that's a whole aim. Yeah. That's a goal to actually do that. Yeah. Although we've done it before off the field, but now we want to do it both ways.
Yeah.
You know, so we're very excited, and as a director of cricket, I'm really, from an on-field point of view, I'm excited about the talent that is actually coming through. Not only 2027, but beyond 2027. There's Olympics in 28.
Yes.
So, you know, when you throw that at players, they get excited because, you know, you don't talk about trebles, you talk about quadrubles.
Now you're an Olympian.
Yeah, exactly. You know, can you imagine winning the World Cup, World Test Championship, T20 World Cup, and Olympics, and the cricket World Cup? Whew, man, what a way to retire as a cricketer. So it is something that, you know, there's so much to look forward to. And we want to make sure that we continue to build systems for our players, you know, to go to those ICC events and thrive and be the best that they can be and actually win.
Selection panels?
Milo Pires.
Yeah, he loves that. Now, look, we've been reviewing it over the last couple of months. So we just need to obviously put if you recall, the structure was interim.
Yes.
So it wasn't a permanent or full-time structure. Yeah. So it was interim. We needed to try something different. So we have identified, obviously, areas that need more support to our coaches.
Yep.
So we're currently going through approval structures.
Okay.
And then, once we've gone through that, you know, we'll announce, obviously, what the full-time structure is going to be moving forward in support of the coaches and, obviously, the plan to 2027.
Okay.
2 questions for me to end it off. Will we see, I know this maybe doesn't fall under your portfolio, would we see SA20 women's for one? I think would be exciting. How far off are we there? Number 2, I mean, we hear about LED lights, we hear about drop-in pitches. There seems to be a lot of conversations, and obviously some of the grounds, maybe the wickets are becoming tired with additional SA20. What's happening around that World Cup prep? There seems to be some exciting stuff that may be happening around the game for us. It's 2 years' time, but I'm sure the work has already started.
The work, like you said, the work is already started. We're looking at, more strategic options, you know, to make sure that we don't disrupt the schedule. Leading up to 2027, but also to make sure that 2027 has healthy wickets, especially your middle 4, which are your
TV,
international.
yeah.
You know, so yes, compared to the past where you would have a longer window to work on your square and number of wickets. Now we don't have that. So we needed to think outside of the box in terms of how can we make sure that by 2027 we have at least 4 middle strips that are very healthy. Do you understand? We are definitely going to avoid the situation, you know, that we saw in America. So the drop-in has been an idea, so it's something that we're going into, and we believe that it will give us the best way to actually have healthier wickets come 2027. You know, so like you said, there's so much more, you know, to also get our stadiums right.
Yes.
You know, the lights, the whole infrastructure, because, you know, I mean, to host such an event, a cricket World Cup for 2 months. And with the whole world coming to our shores, it's going to be massive. So we need to make sure that we have top-notch facilities all around. And that's something that we've never shied away from. So the work has actually already started.
SA20 women's?
Yeah, it's been the plan. You know, it is something in the pipeline, and we have a clear plan in terms of, I mean, ideally we want to launch it in 2026. So everything so far, everything is on track so far. I mean, you saw we started with the under 19 SA20 camp. You know, the whole idea around that, also to look at the talent that we have. We've professionalized domestic cricket. So we want to make sure that the pool is so strong that it feeds into that SA20 women's. You know, it's not just internationals, but there's a strong, the Proteas and also the domestic and some youngsters as well. Because, it can only do South African cricket good. You know, so it is the plan. To actually to launch the SA20 women.
Finally, I promise this is the final one. I've obviously done a couple of those Pro Series games, Pro 20 and Pro 50 for the women's, and the quality seemingly looks much better than it was a couple of seasons ago. Is that your view now of since the professionalization of the domestic game in the women's game? How big is getting sponsors on board to be able to improve that product from a skill level, from a marketing point of view, from a sustainability point of view, where the cricketers, their daily bread is to play cricket? Is that how much of an improvement have you seen in a very short space of time? I mean, the season is only beginning, but how much have you seen in terms of improvement since the Pro Series started?
Look, obviously we've had a semi-pro structure before. That has been going for some time. So we needed to look at areas in strengthening domestic women's cricket, which will help ultimately bridging, tightening up the gap between international and domestic. And thanks to the Protea women for having a successful T20 World Cup at home and creating that awareness, the general awareness around women's cricket. But also, I mean, we've seen so many schools and, club cricket has been great in the past. Hubs and clubs have been great in developing women's cricket. But now we're seeing schools, we're seeing so much more interest. In girls cricket, and also with the introduction of under 19 World Cups, that has actually helped as well to try and strengthen and put more energy and time into developing girls cricket, which will transition into obviously women's cricket. So we're seeing the progress. Last season, a lot of people were criticized, but it was the first season of really professionalizing domestic cricket, and we knew that it's not going to be a perfect system, and we needed to, after that season, obviously go back to the drawing board, identify the areas, engage with the members, identify areas that we need to actually become better at, because all of a sudden now you have a physio, SNC, assistant coach, and
all these
head coach,
positions
and all these
now.
positions that never existed before.
Yeah.
So our cricketers have been given an opportunity now to actually
Be part.
prepare better
Yeah.
and be better educated
Yeah.
and to develop their game further because the staff is available.
Yeah.
They can, so it's in a second year.
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time,
Yep.
but we're so grateful with the partnership and the support from Hollywood Bats
Yeah.
to come on board to see the big picture
Yeah.
and say, listen, we want to jump on the bus with you guys and further develop this game
Yeah.
of women's cricket
Yeah.
and make it the best that it can be. So, and we're hoping that as we roll out this domestic cricket, that we'll have more partners coming on board to try and strengthen women's cricket as a whole.
Yeah.
There are plans down the line to also bring in SAA content for
Yes.
women's cricket,
Yes.
which
nice.
again it will be trying to close the gap.
Yep.
At the moment we have obviously our SA20 now emerging.
Yes.
So it would be nice to have the SAA.
Another layer.
Yeah.
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 All right. Enoch, thanks for your time. Nons, you got any questions?
No,
You're done. Enoch, really thanks for your time. I know it's tough. You're tasked with a lot of things. There's so many World Cups. There's so much content coming through in the next few months, but the next few years as well. There's an under 19 Women's T20 World Cup in the near future. There's so much other stuff that's coming up. So thank you so much for sparing some time for us to be able to explain a few things to the general public that they probably might not be privy of. All the best for that. We know we're excited to see South Africa grow in terms of their cricketing prowess, go back to where we belong, and that's dominating world cricket. So we're really looking forward to that. Thank you so much. All the best. And we'll hopefully speak to you in a couple of months.
One more hurdle
as champions of
one
something.
more hurdle.
Yeah?
He's won everywhere he's been. So
but
this
now,
is one
this
thing.
is the pinnacle.
Yeah,
now.
this is the one thing.
We bring the winning culture.
Man, thanks for the opportunity. To have me on your show. It's been great to speak the game. It's been great to speak about the system, and we'll do our best, from our side to provide that, that platform for our players to go out there and actually dominate world cricket. Both men and women, and I'm just excited about what lies ahead. And we have a great team, at Cricket South Africa as a whole.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of continue to put in the hard yards.
Yeah.
And get this puzzle right. And there's no doubt that with the work that we're putting in behind the scenes, there's no doubt that our players will make us proud one day.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
First one at home would be amazing. Eh?
We're doing we're not even doing a national tour. We're going to do a continental tour. We're showing off that first one. Enoch, thanks so much. If you like this content, please like on our page, follow, subscribe, and comment about anything really about what you've heard from Enoch. And the experiences and some of the content that's coming through from a South African cricket point of view. And we will catch you next time.